There's this concept that I've been thinking about recently, man, and it's you have to sound like a complete idiot and moron in the moment in order to do great things long term. And that's just a general run of the mill sentence, but it's not all encompassing. It just means for certain successful things that you see now. Look at things that you see now that are super successful and think about when they were first made. Think about how they sounded back then, and they probably sounded pretty idiotic and stupid. And before I get into this, I want to say this is not investment advice. This is an entertainment channel. I'm just trying to entertain me here. And let's look at the example of this thing right here, right? I learned about this the other day. There's this thing where you can have a fruit tree and it can produce three different types of fruit. You can have lemon, you can have orange, you can have grapefruit, and it's this whole thing where you like splice different trees together and you can make an omni tree that has a bunch of different fruits. Think about the guy who first invented that. He was probably outside and he was probably cutting his tree and he was putting different tree parts together and taping them up. And his wife was probably like, "Oh shit, what is he doing? The neighbors are gonna see what Howard. What are the neighbors gonna say? You have tape all over our tree." But lo and behold, what did Howard do? He made this tree that is an omni tree that has a bunch of different fruits. And think about any other different, and it's called grafting a tree. Isn't that crazy, man? You can graft a tree into a bunch of different trees, have a bunch of different fruits. It's insane. But think about the guy who first thought of that. He must have sounded like a loony bin. They were probably gonna like call, call some agency or something on him, man. And it's same with a lot of people, man. And think about Bill Gates. I mean, now of course the internet, the computer, oh, he did a great thing. But think about when he was first starting out as a kid. He was like a nerd in college, dropping out to sell computers, this little device. He must have sounded like a complete crazy bin. Same with like Elon Musk or any different type of people out there who start something, especially think about like cryptocurrency. If you're investing in cryptocurrency, if you said I am investing in cryptocurrency in 2010, you must have sounded like a complete nutcase. Just, oh, you're taking your dollars and you're converting it to like internet currency? What Why are you doing that? And what's fascinating to me is perception. And I've said perception a lot. I like to say it because it makes me sound intelligent. But think about it. It's all true. It's true what I'm saying is our perception now is on this success, not past and how many building blocks it took along the way and how many times you had to look like an idiot before you looked like a complete genius. And I want to translate this into flesh and blood. It's very easy now to see Flesh and Blood in Star City, Channel Fireball. You have Tolarian Community College, the professor Brian over there, talking about it. He's the largest Magic the Gathering YouTube channel, and he's now talking about Flesh and Blood. You have all these big people out there talking about Flesh and Blood right now in 2021, and everything's on fire. And it's really easy to have this perception of, oh, it's always been like this. That's not the case. I've been in this game for a bit now. I've been in the last 7 to 8 months, and what I can tell you, man, there was some dark days in 2020 where this game was successful and things were happening, but people really didn't believe in it as much. And if you saw like people buying these cold foil cards or buying certain things, you might have thought like it was so stupid. One big example is Crucible War. There's a lot of people out there in the Flesh and Blood community when Crucible War hit, and they're like, "Oh, Crucible War was double printed. It's gonna be on the shelves for ages. It's not gonna do anything for a very long time. There's other things you could put your money into." And lo and behold, you know the rest of the story with Crucible War. But there was a time period back in the day where nobody thought anything of it. Even me, man. I was buying bulk Welcome to Wrath commons, and I was buying rainbow foils. I was buying this and that, and people people thought I was a little crazy. I mean, this one vendor in particular was like, "Oh, well, good luck, man. Here's your bulk." But I believed in the game, and I saw the long term, and I think that's really the big picture here. Is you can make 10 to 20% in the next 1 to 2 years in anything, right? And sound sane, right? You sound like a person who knows what they're doing. You sound like an intelligent person by saying things that will get you 10 to 20% margins. But anything in life that gets you those 100% to 1000 plus percent margins of return on investment or for what you're putting into, I think you have to sound like a complete moron. You have to sound like a complete idiot that has no idea what he's doing. And that's kind of the big takeaway here. And that's fascinating to me, right? Because you think that intelligent sounding people would make the most money, but in reverse, it's really the people who are morons who can have the potential to make a lot of money. Now, granted, there are a lot of morons that are just morons and just don't make anything. But there are also, intelligent people that do make a lot of money. But it really is all in a sense of there are certain things where you have to sound crazy. And I think it's because the people who sound crazy today are the people who are thinking multiple months, years down the line. They're thinking 30 steps ahead in chess. They're not just thinking about the current moment that they're in. And there's this one famous investing strategy. You've probably heard it: buy low, sell high. And the whole thing is like buy on the cannons, sell on the bells, if you've heard of that. Essentially meaning if there's really bad press and the stock goes down, then you buy if things are bad. But if they're really good, if everything is good news, then you sell because there's, the stock goes up. But it's very easy to say that. But our reactions as a human being aren't like that. When things are going good, we want to buy because it's a happy feeling. It's a good feeling. But when things are tanking, it's a shitty feeling. We don't want to buy when it's low. Do you really want to buy something that's going down? But that's like the classic investment strategy, you know? And when you buy when things are down, does that feel very good? No. Do the general public think that's a smart idea? When you're buying when something is like going down to the floor? No. Same with Flesh and Blood. When Unlimited was coming out in October 2020, do you know how many people just said, "Done, done with this game. Here's what I want out of my cards. I want double what I paid for them. Please give me the money for or like here's what it is. Who wants it?" And I can tell you there's so many paper-handed people who just folded up and said, "Yep, I'm done." And I don't blame them. I mean, if the game wasn't for them and they got double their money from what they spent on a Welcome to Wrath booster box, hey, that's pretty legit. But they missed out on all the big hits, through the last 6 months, the last 5 months, for all the big news that came out. And it's just interesting, man. It's very an interesting concept because for me, when I'm looking at different things to put my money in, investing or just collecting and stuff, it's very easy to be focused on what the market is saying, what you hear, what everything like that, what all the people are saying. But I think that when I hear things from different avenues, I've been trying to really just think that they're really just not true. I don't know. It's just it doesn't seem right. If all the fish are swimming into one direction, then it's like, is it really going to be profitable long term? Is that really going to be the smart way of thinking and acting if everyone else is doing it? And sometimes I think you have to be a fish that swims the opposite way. You go downstream, you go down the opposite path, the road less traveled, because that's what's really going to be money in the long run. That's really going to be the big things in the future. Just food for thought. And I don't know what other people think about this, but it's just cool. It's just cool to know that there's people out there who just are fringe in society that say like some crazy ass stuff. Some crazy stuff. And in the moment, you might think that they're just completely off their rocker. They're just completely, they don't understand how things work and they're not like with it. But maybe they have something. Maybe there's something there. And when I see things that other people are like, yeah, 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 this is true, this is true, this is true, I tend to shy away from those things now. I'm like, well, maybe if everyone's doing this, is it really that thing? Is that really going to be the next big thing if so many people are going for it? Because historically, it hasn't been that way. Historically, I see a bunch of different examples where people who seemed like they were doing something crazy at the time were doing something big. and we're doing big things. Big wealth is generated that way. Big wealth transfers are happening in situations of distress. And I mean, there's this type of investing where you invest in distressed assets, distressed bonds, distressed things, where big things happen to the company or big things happen to something. And hey, it could happen to Flesh and Blood sometime soon. Could happen to the trading card game industry. It's been riding high for a very long time. What happens if it dips? What happens if it dipped really, 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 really hard? And everyone's trying to just sell all their stuff really fast. I mean, in those situations, it's so easy to go with the herd and think, well, the show's over. We can't make money off this anymore. I'm done. I'm out. But in those situations, instead of going out, it's better to get in. But then when we're in a period right now where everything's riding high, it's not as good to go in because everyone's going in. There's only so much ceiling, and I don't know. Again, this is not investment advice. It's not any investment, any type of advice at all. It's just something that I've been thinking about, like really thinking about because it just fascinates me. And I wonder how much of an idiot I can sound like with some types of things, especially Flesh and Blood, man. I mean, I definitely can say there's so much buyer remorse in so many situations with Flesh and Blood in 2020. Like I spent, X amount of dollars on this, like maybe $400 or $500 at a time on certain purchases, and at the time, I felt like a moron, and I felt like an idiot. I felt like, why am I doing this? Like, is this really that much money? Should I really be spending like this on that? Like, is this really that much? And it was funny because every time I did, the next month or two, I'd be like, "Yep, that was a good idea. Should have done that. That was a really smart idea." And it was this like self-fulfilling you know like movement. It was a cycle where I felt like crap, and I was like, "Really, should I have done that?" And that was my emotions speaking. That's what you have to realize. That was my emotions feeling crappy at the time. But then as time moved on, I was like, yep, that was a good call. And it's because I was using my big wrinkles in my brain. I was like, you know what? I know that this is worth X amount, and I know it's going to change over time. And that's why I'm putting my money into it. That's why I want it. And then over time, I was happy because I acquired some stuff that I would normally not be able to get as a collector because I figured it out earlier. I put my money into it, and then later on, saw it go up. And it's just funny to me, that at the time you feel so crappy, you feel like an idiot. But then over time, I mean, not even that much time, over a month or two, things can change like that. And when they change, then you're a genius. And it's that whole concept, man. It's the same with job interviews and all that stuff. That whole process. Let me ramble a little bit at the end. It's weird how you can feel like a success or a failure with one job interview. You know what I mean? It's like there's no intermediary between that. Either you get the job and you feel like a success, or don't get it and you feel like a failure. It's just polarizing things. I think it's really easy for someone to say, wow, that guy's a failure, or that guy's an idiot. They've done this for a year, haven't done anything, and it's nothing. But then, hey, a year later, that person's like, whoa, that guy who I thought was an idiot last year, he's a complete genius. I can't believe he's revolutionizing X, Y, or Z, or I can't believe he had that foresight to do this. The separation from failure and genius is a very thin line, and luck does have something to do with it. But ultimately, perception of this whole type of thing is really quite fascinating. It really is, because right now, and I'll try to wrap this up, but to summarize, like, you may see people now. Look at all these people who you think are successful, who you think are badasses or geniuses. There's points in their lives, most likely from what I've seen with other things. And please comment down below if you know people. But if you see people as successful or like big right now, they were complete like way back in the day. Most likely, they sounded like complete idiots to the rest of the general public because they were thinking in the future, whereas everyone else was thinking in the moment. So that's the big takeaway today. Hope you've enjoyed. Yeah, it's just a topic that I really enjoy. It's something cool because there is a lot of medium that like tells you what to do in the moment. It's like, hey, X is happening in Flesh and Blood. You should do this, especially in Flesh and Blood. Man, there's so many things in the market where it's like, hey, this is the next hot thing, or this is the next hot thing. There's like everyone's tunnel visioned into certain products or certain things, but to really grasp some really smart moves and to get a really nice collection, I think you have to sound like an idiot. But also, there are dumb things you can do, and they just are dumb, and you never get anything out of. So I know there's that aspect, but I just wanted to talk about this because I see a trend, and I'm following my nose, and my buzzword is perception, and then this is a big thing that ties into that because right now you perceive people as successful people, people who have done some really cool shit, but then you have to realize that everyone had building blocks along the way. It's not just success. It's, you know, idiot, 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 kind of smart, genius, it's a traveling thing through time where at different points there's a different perception along the way. And it's very easy for anyone, including myself, to forget all the things that happened in the past and all the perceptions in the past and focus on what you see right in front of your eyes. And to sum up, yeah, I just want to say that, yeah, you have to sound like an idiot to do some really great things in life from what Bronson sees. So thanks for watching, man.